Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I want to talk to you guys about why the cliffhanger ending that we got at the end of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 17 is a much bigger deal than you might have originally given thought to, especially since Amado was able to quickly recover in a way that he did when Kawaki confronted him and demanded to have his limiters removed. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explain video, where we are going to take a look at why Amado might be in a position where Kawaki is choking the life out of him currently, making demands, and yet despite all of this, Amado is still one step ahead of Kawaki. I think we all can agree upon the fact that Amado's current position, it reeks of Amado being forced to take Kawaki's limiters off and restore his full attack power to a point where Kawaki is able to properly use 100% of Ishiki's offensive powers. That seems like a foregone conclusion, and Amado isn't really going to have any wiggle room to get himself out of that position. Kawaki knows that his current level of power is exactly where it is, and it's not where it should be, because he has seen the gaps that exist between himself and Boruto and himself and Jura. He has every reason to find himself craving more power that is rightfully his, because he was promised a weaponized karma, and while he did technically get one, he got a weapon that isn't at full power and isn't at full destructive capability. If Amado does something that results in anything less than full power, Kawaki's likely to know it now. Yet despite this, Kawaki very likely has fallen into a trap by Amado, and I think said trap goes all the way back to an unresolved plot point from Boruto Part 1, which is the revival of Amado's daughter. To further highlight what I mean here, let's take a deeper look at Amado Sanzu's ability to control situations, even when being directly threatened by someone as dangerous and bloodlusted as Kawaki. It stems from his strategic foresight, emotional manipulation, and calculated leverage over his adversaries. His past actions, they provide a clear blueprint for understanding how he operates and why he remains in such control, even in seemingly precarious situations. First, let's look at Amado's manipulative genius, because it is a pattern of outsmarting powerful adversaries. So the first thing you have to look at is the fact that he betrayed Ishiki through long-term strategy. Amado orchestrated Ishiki's downfall by leveraging Naruto and Sasuke as being pawns, exploiting their hatred for the Otsutsuki because it's an us versus them mentality. The Otsutsuki want to harvest the planet. Naruto and Sasuke are the last line of defense. His plan to expose Jigen's weakness and enable Ishiki's resurrection in an unstable vessel and ultimately destroy him, it shows Amado's ability to anticipate outcomes years in advance. Even though some of it requires luck, it is still something to look at. This meticulous planning, it highlights his patience and willingness to cross moral boundaries in order to get to his goals. I would argue right now, Amado is more desperate than he ever was before, because the resurrection of his daughter is closer now than it's ever been. You also have to look at the reawakening of Kawaki's karma. Amado manipulated Kawaki by emotionally gaslighting him, playing on his insecurities and his love for Naruto. It's a genius tactic right out the book of Makima. If you know, you know. By framing the karma seal as a necessary tool to protect Naruto, Amado tricked Kawaki into accepting its re-implementation. This moment not only gave Kawaki an immense power boost, but also reinforced Amado's control over him, ensuring that Kawaki would feel indebted as a result, or at the very least, very dependent on the power of karma, which that is what he has become. When it comes to the latter, extremely dependent on karma. You also have Code's use of desperation used against him. When Code sought to have his power limits removed, Amado turned that situation to his advantage by sowing discord between Code and Ada. By pointing out Ada's potential opportunity to join Konoha with Amado helping set up with Kawaki, Amado directly appealed to Ada's best interests, which then indirectly led to Damon being used to attack Code on behalf of Amado. Even though it was by Ada's orders, it ensured his safety and securing an alliance with Ada and Damon, both physically stronger than Code. This shows his skill in exploiting interpersonal dynamics to turn threats into assets. It's a very underrated and very important asset of a leader. This all gets even crazier when you look at how Amado, in his own grief, has been driving him deeper and deeper into his own personal darkness, one that is both deeply human as well as the thumbscrew that might end up being his undoing, because his daughter's revival and the obsession over it might be what causes him to make a mistake with Kawaki. To understand this, you have to understand on a deeper level his character struggle. Amado's desire to revive his daughter, Akibi, it is deeply rooted in both natural parental grief and his refusal to accept her death, which serves as a refining and redefining flaw and a driving force behind all of his actions. Look at it from this perspective. You have natural parental grief and an irreplaceable bond that Amado is trying to fix. You have the depth of a parent's love. The bond between parent and child is one of the most profound, primal human connections. Losing a child is widely considered to be one of the most devastating experiences that a person can endure. For Amado, this loss didn't just mean losing a loved one, it meant losing a piece of himself, because his daughter is literally part of himself because she carries his DNA. His identity as a father, it was seemingly intrinsically tied to Akibi, and her death left a void that he's been unable to fill, which is why he threw himself so deeply into science, trying to make a new version of his daughter. It's an unbearable nature of grief that is on full display. Parents who lose children, they often describe feelings of guilt, helplessness, and overwhelming desire to undo the tragedy, which is what threw Amado into science and cloning. Amado's actions are a reflection of this. Rather than processing his grief, he clings to the hope of using science to reverse it. His obsession with reviving Akibi, it can be seen as his way of escaping the finality of death, a way to deny the reality of her absence and restore a semblance of the life that he once had with her. It is also a reflection of the refusal to accept death, which is a core theme of Amado's character. Amado's refusal to accept Akibi's death, it reflects his inability to move through the stages of grief himself. Where acceptance would normally lead to healing, Amado's fixation keeps him trapped in the cycle of denial and bargaining, meaning he is still one of the characters in the Naruto universe who is still trapped in the cycle of samsara. And what we see constantly in Boruto are characters trying to escape that cycle of samsara and transcend beyond it. This flaw defines his character, making him both sympathetic as well as morally ambiguous. You also have the pragmatic motivational display, which is Kawaki being used as a key to revival. Akibi's genetic data, it is inside of Kawaki's karma seal. Amado's decision to place Akibi's data into Kawaki's karma seal was not just a precaution, it was also a calculated move to ensure he had a vessel for her revival. Kawaki's body, enhanced by Amado's own ninja tech as well as Ishiki Otsutsuki's powers, is uniquely suited to house Akibi's essence until Amado can get him to place the DNA into whatever clone he makes. This makes Kawaki an indispensable asset to Amado's plan, giving Amado every reason to keep him alive and in his control until he no longer needs him. This means ensuring Kawaki's survival at all costs. Kawaki's survival, it is paramount to Amado's ultimate goal. Without him, the culmination of years of research, betrayal, and manipulation, it would have all been for nothing. This gives Amado incentive to power Kawaki up in order to defend himself by removing the limiters or granting further enhancements. We can argue whether or not he gives him the full 100% Ishiki combat ability, but now that Jura's out there, he's going to have to. And without the shutdown code as a safeguard, he has to find another way to ensure Kawaki can fulfill his purpose, because he doesn't want to play that shutdown code right now, because that's a one-time thing. Once you use it on Kawaki once, the moment that Kawaki gets control of his functions, he's going to kill you. You also have to look at the way that he is leveraging Kawaki's guilt and loyalty. So you can look at it from this perspective. Kawaki knows that he needs his power in order to protect Naruto. He will not unseal him until he creates a safe world for him. This gives Amado an inroad to start framing the revival of Akibi as being a collaborative effort instead of as a demand. Amado can exploit Kawaki's guilt over his past actions and his loyalty that he has to Naruto in order to see all this stuff with omnipotence through. Amado can use that to his advantage. Kawaki's going to have an obligation to Amado for empowering him. It will make him more likely to comply with his plan to ensure Akibi's revival, because Kawaki is a consequentialist. As long as what he's doing ultimately gives him the power needed in order to protect Naruto, he will do it. This also brings us into more of Amado's character flaw, which is obsession at the expense of mortality, because this is shown with the ethical lines that are constantly being crossed by Amado. Amado's inability to accept Akibi's death, it has driven him to commit increasingly questionable acts, including, and not just limited to, experimenting children under Jigen's orders, using them as tools for his research, betraying and manipulating others from Ishiki to Jigen to Code to Kawaki to further his plans. These actions highlight to show how his grief has transformed him into someone who prioritizes his own personal goals over the well-being of others. It is also a reflection of desperation. Amado's moral compromises are a direct reflection of his desperation. In his eyes, in the end, reviving Akibi, it justifies the means, no matter how unethical or manipulative those means may be. His grief blinds him to the cost of his actions, both to himself and to those around him. It is also something that is in contrast in a parallel way to Kawaki's own trauma. Look at it from this very interesting perspective. Amado's grief, it parallels Kawaki's own struggles with loss and identity. Both of these characters, in a way, are defined by their inability to get past their insecurities, making their relationship one you could argue is one of mutual dependency, but also potential conflict. Amado's fixation on Akibi, it mirrors Kawaki's fixation on protecting Naruto, creating a complex dynamic where both characters are willing to go to extremes for their perceived family. This is a driving factor in Amado's actions, a father's love as a source of strength and weakness. Amado's love for Akibi is both his greatest strength as well as his fatal flaw. It has given him the drive to achieve extraordinary feats, such as developing advanced ninja tech light years beyond anything Konoha could have produced, and a drive to outmaneuver powerful adversaries in the form of Jigen and Ishiki and Code. However, it has also led him down a very dark path where his decisions are dictated by obsession rather than reason. There's a psychological need for redemption to a degree. Amado may see Akibi's revival as a way to redeem himself for his past failures, both as a father as well as a human being, because he likely knows that he probably should have spent more time with his daughter when she was dying, and that's something he has to live with. He likely also blames himself for her death, even though she got sick with an illness. As a parent, you still blame yourself by bringing her back to life. He believes that he can right the wrongs of his life, even if it means perpetuating new ones. Because another part of Amado's character is the concept of grief as being a catalyst for control. Amado's refusal to accept Akibi's death, it is a crucial cornerstone to his character. It drives his manipulation of Kawaki, his ethical compromises, and his obsession with control. By keeping Kawaki alive and ensuring his compliance, Amado maintains the possibility of achieving his ultimate goal, reviving his daughter. This singular focus shapes his every action, making him a tragic figure whose grief and love push him to the edge of mortality. We now have to also view the current situation, Amado's increasing leverage over Kawaki despite his situation he's in. Amado's obsession with reviving Akibi, it continues to drive his decisions, his ethical compromises. It stems from his desperation to bring her back. In Kawaki's demand to have his limiters removed, Amado has an opportunity to further his goal, because Amado being demanded by Kawaki to unlock Ishiki's full power also goes back to how Jigen once promised Amado, hey, I'll bring your daughter back to life. Kawaki being fueled by grief and determination to protect Naruto, Amado can manipulate that. Everything's coming full circle, ironically, with Kawaki playing the role of Jigen, someone that Kawaki hated. There's also the incentive to empower Kawaki against Jura, because Jura's strength being revealed to surpass both Boruto and Kawaki, it gives Amado a reason to amplify Kawaki's abilities. By removing his limiters, Amado can create a weapon capable of challenging Jura, protecting his own interests and advancing his plan. This pragmatic motivation ensures that Kawaki remains a pawn in Amado's seemingly larger game. We also have, most importantly, Amado's hidden shutdown code for Kawaki. Amado's past actions, they suggest that he thrives on contingency plans. By implementing a secret shutdown code into Kawaki's body, he has that last resort option to neutralize Kawaki if he ever becomes a threat. However, Amado, again, is going to likely withhold this information for the following reasons. Maintaining a leverage, because revealing that shutdown code would risk Kawaki or others finding a way to counteract it. Dismissing Amado's control, making it a secret, preserves his ultimate safeguard, albeit Ada does know about it. You also have the power dynamic. Kawaki's reliance on Amado for the limiters being removed and getting the adjustments, and ensures that Amado remains essential. Disclosing the shutdown code, it could damage any leverage he has over Kawaki. In closing, I think that we're not paying enough attention to Amado's calculations and motivations. Amado's actions are consistently driven by love of a father and the ethical lines that he crosses for that daughter. He is a man of foresight. He is prepared to use threats, manipulation, and emotional exploitation to ensure his plans come to fruition. His ability to turn Kawaki's demand for limiters being removed into a bargaining tool, potentially, it demonstrates his confidence in his strategic thinking. He has had time to think over everything that Boruto told Kawaki and adjust. Amado's desperation to revive Akibi, coupled with his calculated measures to maintain control over Kawaki, it keeps him several steps ahead, even in the face of danger, even though he knows that Kashin Koji is potentially using 10 directions as a result. It's gonna be very interesting to see where all this heads out. While you wait for the next video, click here to watch the Boruto chapter review if you haven't already, or click here to watch this new video from my Anime Explained channel where I talk about non-Naruto content.